Hello everyone, this is Maureen and welcome back to another episode of Basic Stitches here on My Crochet Story. First, let me say thank you to everyone that is showing up. If you are already a subscriber to my channel, thank you so very much for checking out my content each time I upload a video. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing and be sure and hit the notification button with the little hugs that I like to call them on the bell so that you never miss any content that I put up. So today we are going to be looking at the puff stitch. Now there's various different ways that you can make the puff stitch, but basically all it is starting out like a double crochet and you just keep adding loops. And I'll show you that in here in just a minute. So to go along with your practice of the puff stitch, I decided that wouldn't it be cool to make a coaster if you only put one round, a pot holder if you put multiple rounds, and if you even enlarge it more, would make a very nice table topper just to throw out there and to look pretty. Now, this practice will only require that you use single crochets, half double crochets, double crochets, and a slip stitch. Now, when we get to the puff stitch, you're going to see that it is a very easy stitch to learn to do. Now, I also hope that you notice here that in the way that I put the puff stitches together, they might look like little hearts. And that was done on purpose. But you can use the puff stitch in varying different ways. You can do just one puff stitch in the pattern. You can put multiples together like I have done here. There's just so many things that you can do with a puff stitch, and it's very easy to learn. So if you're ready, I made this little sample out of acrylic yarn, but if you're going to make this to be like a coaster or a hot pad or something, which by the way, with these 2 rows of using the puff stitch, this is big enough to put a small casserole dish on, or a pot just right off the stove, even a cast iron skillet if you need to, but definitely be sure and make it out of cotton or a cotton blend. This swatch that I am using today for you, I made out of acrylic, simply because number one, that's what I had on hand. I'm saving my cotton for a special project here, so I didn't want to use it. But it still looks and feels very good with the acrylic. I would not use this though. If you make it out of acrylic, anywhere you plan on it needing to be able to soak up water or even condensation. But it still works up pretty in the acrylic yarns or even an acrylic blend if you're just going to use it to put out there and look cute. Okay? Alright, so I will be using my trusty old Red Heart Super Saver here. It's a jumbo roll. It has 14 ounces or 396 grams. This big ball has 744 yards in it when it was brand new, but obviously I've been playing with it some, are 681 meters. Now, acrylic yarn is washable and dryable, but you cannot iron it or bleach it. The thing I like about Super Saver, and I've mentioned this to you before, is that they have come back with this little notice here that shows you if you are someone who likes to pull from the middle, your string will be on the right side. If you like to unwind from the outside, it will be on the left side. So this is a very good project if you're, of course, we're going to be learning the puff stitch, but it's also a very good project if you're wanting to use up some little bits of yarn. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out here. That, like I said, now this is a 4-weight. I will be using a size I hook. Now you can use a J if you would like. You can even go down and use an H. It just depends on, what hook size you have, what your weight of yarn is. And I got this knot it up just a little bit. Give me a second. So I mean, you're not just stuck having to use one specific type of weight of yarn or hook. You can change it up as much as you want to. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a slip knot and connect our hook. Now, if you are familiar with the magic ring and you like to use that, that's fine. I just do the trusty old chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to make a slip stitch right back into this very first chain 1. I yarned over, pulled up a loop, and I'm going to slip right back through there. That's what we call a slip stitch. Now we formed a little circle right here, and this is where we're going to begin our first round. And our first round is going to consist of 12 double crochets. So yarn over, go into that center there. Oh, wait a minute. I need to get my chain 1 so I can get my height there going. Now I'm going to yarn over, go into the middle of the loop I made, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2 more. There's my first double crochet. Now this chain 1 here that I did does not count as anything. It does just what I like to call the height gauge for my row or my round. Alright, let's do another one. Yarn over, go back into the middle of the ring, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2 again. And if you feel familiar with working with the double crochet, that's all we're going to do for this first round. We're just going to make 12 double crochet. So there's 3, 4, 5, and you keep working until you get 12. All right, and I'll meet you back in just a minute and show you where and how we're going to close up this first round of our coaster. All right, I'm coming up to the end here. I should have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I just need to do 2 more. 11 and 12. Now I'm going to slip stitch back into the top of my very first double crochet, and that should be this one right here, but I'm going to count backwards just to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we're just going to go right in there underneath those 2 loops, pull up a loop, and then pull up a loop again. And there is my first round. Now if you want to, you can go ahead and grab your tail back here and close up your circle. All right? Now in this second round, we're going to chain up 1, and we're going to go right back into this stitch that we joined with, and we're going to put 2 double crochets. So there's 1, and there is 2. Now this first one's going to be a little tight because you not only slip stitched into it, but now you're going back in and putting 2 double crochets, which is okay. Now in the top of each one of these double crochets from the previous row, we're going to put 2 double crochets, which allows us to increase our circle and not have it pucker in on us. So I'm going to skip over to the next stitch, and I'm going to put in 2 double crochets. And you'll find this one a lot easier to work into because it doesn't have any other yarn in it. And we're just going to continue that all the way around, putting in 2 double crochets. Alright, I'm coming up to the last 2 stitches in my round. So I'm going to continue putting in the last. Here's 1 and 2 for this stitch. And 1, 2, 1 double crochet and the second double crochet, and this should give me, since I've put 2 in each stitch from the previous row, 24 double crochets around. But let's count to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. So come through here. That was my chain up stitch. Remember to slip stitch into the top of your first double crochet, loop, and then loop through again. And that made a nice circle and an increase, and she's nice and flat. Alright, so this next row will start our puff stitch row here. Now, a puff stitch is just basically a series of pulling up loops and then pulling through to give it that nice little puff. So I need to chain one to get my height working. I'm going to yarn over, go into my first stitch, and pull up a loop. I'm going to yarn over, go back into that stitch, and pull up a loop. And I'm going to do that one more time. Yarn over, go back into that first stitch, and pull up a loop. Now that will give me 7 loops on my hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. And then to lock it down, I'm just going to chain 1. And there is my first puff stitch. Now I'm going to yarn over, go back into this loop, and I'm going to make another puff stitch. So there's 1, yarn over, there's 2, yarn over, and there's 3. And again, I should have 7 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I'm going to yarn over, pull through all 7 loops, and then lock it down with a chain. And there are my first 2 puffs built into the first stitch. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to skip 2 stitches, and you'll see how this puff stitch here kind of hides that next stitch. Well, make sure you pull it over and you find it. So we're going to skip this one, and then we're going back into this next one doing the puff stitch all over again. So yarn over, go into your stitch, and pull up a loop. We're going to do that 2 more times. Should have 7 loops on the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to pull through all 7 loops and chain 1. You know what? I forgot to chain 2 here. I need to put in an extra chain or we're going to bunch up. Okay, so I puffed, locked it down with a chain 1. Now I need to add another chain. Then we can move on. Puff stitch, chain 1, puff stitch, chain 1, add a chain. Alright, now we can go skip 2 into this next stitch, pull up a loop, pull up a loop, pull up a loop, go through all 7 loops, and a chain 1. Do it again. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, one more time, yarn over, pull up a loop. There's our 7 loops. Yarn over, pull through all 7. Now this is a chain 1 to lock down our puff stitch, and then a chain 1 to move us to the next one. So don't forget, move that aside. 1, 2, moving on to the next. Here we go again. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 7 loops, chain 1, go back in there, make another puff, and now you're going to lock it in with 1 chain and then chain 1 again. See how nice my little puffs are there? All right, do it again. Chain, skip 1, 2, yarn over, make a puff. lock down your puff, and then chain 1. And I want you to do that all the way around, and I'll meet you back here at the beginning. Alright, I'm finishing up my last set of puff stitches. 2, 4, 6. Back in there and finish out my last one. Chain 1 to lock it down, chain 1, and we'll see how many stitches we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, and 40. And we'll slip stitch right back up in here. Now this is our working chain that brought us up, and this is the top of our puff stitch, which is where we want to connect into. Now it's going to pucker just a little bit, but that's okay because she's going to flatten back out here in just a minute. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use the half double crochet stitch to increase all the way around. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and we're going to put a half double crochet right back into, let me get me some more yarn here. Alright, so half double crochet back into our space here, or into the top of our loop, or where we joined, excuse me, I'll get it out in a minute. And then we're going to put 1 half double crochet in where the chain 1 space is. We're going to put a half double crochet into the top of the next puff stitch, and then here in this chain 2 space we're going to put 2 half double crochets. One half double crochet back into the top of the puff stitch, 1 half double crochet into the top of the chain 1 space, 1 half double crochet in the top of the next puff stitch, and 2 half double crochets into the chain 2 space. And we're going to do that all the way around. Half double in the top of the puff, half double into the chain 1 space, a half double into the top of the puff, and 2 half doubles in the chain 2 space. And do that all the way around. Alright, I'm coming up to the last of my stitching, going into my last puff stitch and into my last chain 2 space, my half doubles, and then I'm going to connect right up here at the top of that first half double crochet stitch and chain 1. Now it's going to pucker on you for just a little bit, but once you get finished, just do a little stretch and she'll be fine. Okay? Alright, for this next round we are going to do another round of of the puff stitches. So get your chain 1 up. We're going to yarn over, go right back into this stitch here that we chained 1 into, and we're going to make a puff stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, pull up a loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 7, chain 1. Do it again, another puff. Yarn over, pull up a loop, pull up a loop, pull up a loop. There's 7. Yarn over, chain 1 to lock it in, and then chain 1. Again, skip 1, 2 stitches, And into the next, we're going to do another puff stitch, just like we did on round 3. Going to add our puff stitches. Remember that first chain locks it down, and then we put in another chain to get us going around. Get some more yarn here. And we keep it going. So we've got our lockdown chain and our chain 1, skip 2 again, get ready to make another puff. Here's my first one. Lock it in. Do the second one. That locks in my puff, and then there's my extra chain to get me to the next. So continue doing this all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end of the round in just a few minutes. Alright, I'm coming up to my last puff set. Chain 1, puff. Chain 1, and be sure that you do that extra chain there before you come over here and connect up at the top of your puff stitch. I'm sorry. Alright, next row we're going to chain 1, and just like we did here, we're going to add the half double again. So we're going to go right back in to the stitch that we connected into, make a half double crochet, 1 half double crochet into the top of the chain 1 space, and again 1 half double crochet in the top of the next puff stitch, and then 2 half double crochets in the chain 2 space, half double crochet in the top of the puff, half double crochet into the chain 1 space, half double crochet in the top of the puff, and 2 half double crochets into the chain 2 space, And just as we did before, we're going to continue that all the way around, and then I'll show you how we're going to finish off this little coaster, pot holder, whatever you wish to make out of it. So I'll meet you back at the beginning in just a minute. Alright, I'm coming to the end of my round, putting 2 half double crochets, chain 2 space, 1 in the top of my puff, 1 in the chain 1 space, 1 into the top of the puff, and then 2 into my last chain 2 space. And I will join with a slip stitch into the top of my first half double crochet there. And that is what we have so far. You may have to stretch it out just a little bit because sometimes the puffs can make it want to buckle on you. So there you have it. Now, if you wanted to, you could stop right there. And all you'd have to do is just tie off. And I normally do that by just pulling through an extra loop, like I'm going to chain 1. And I tie off a little bit of, cut off, just a little bit of yarn. And then I go ahead and hold this down and pull it through. Now I'm going to get my yarn needle here. Now you notice I haven't tied that down yet, or tightened it up yet. what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that loop loose just a little bit for a minute, and I'm going to tug it this way, and I'm going to come into this next stitch here and go underneath both loops. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that loop right into there. See that? Just going to snug it down on in, and then I'm going to go back through some of these loops right here. It's not going to want to go in there. Oh yeah, there she goes. Up under this next stitch, right there. That's where I want to go. And just pull it down. And what I've created is an invisible little loop there, so that it's almost indistinguishable as to where I started and I stopped. And then I'm just going to come back down here, go in between some of my double crochet posts, come to the bottom, pull that on through, and I'm just going to weave across here a little bit, because I always have a horror of my stitches coming loose. And I'm just going to go back through one more time. Then I'm going to cut that off. And it's really almost indistinguishable when you come across the top there, unless you know what it is you're looking for. I'm going to come back here at the back, hide this little tail. And I'm just going to go under some of these loops from my double crochets on the top. Go back a little bit, maybe a little further. Catch just a few. Now I'm not going all the way through. Just want to play with these loops back here in the back. Go under that one maybe, and then go back through again. Just because I'm wanting to hide my tail. There we go. Now, as I said, you may have to stretch it out a little bit. There's my girl. Right? I hope that you have enjoyed this little tutorial here, learning the puff stitch and in the design that I made for you, because as I said earlier, as you notice, it made some little hearts. Now, we'll be using the puff stitch quite a bit in projects coming up later on, so just wanted to sneak that one in there, especially since this is being made at the end of January, and what's coming up? Valentine's Day. So what a nice way to practice puff stitches and making cute little hearts at the same time. All right? I hope again that you enjoyed this tutorial. As always, thank you for stopping by to see me. Be sure to be the light out there in the darkness for someone today, because you never know. It might be your light that they need to see. I love you all. God bless. Have a wonderful day. Bye.